The Airbnb in the 18th arrondissement of Paris was a 4-story apartment rented just for a weekend with a few friends. The larger building was a maze with no windows in the common spaces and elevators lined with concrete, off-putting to say the least. Despite being 4 stories, the apartment was extremely small and narrow throughout. I stayed on the top floor, a converted attic, with 2 beds and some basic accommodations. It never felt right up there. It was dark, had no windows, and was just claustrophobic. But I figured it wouldn't matter much. We weren't planning to spend a lot of time there. The first night, I ended up staying at a French girl's place, a half-regretted story of its own. But the second and final night, I went back to the apartment, late, with only one other friend from our small group. He took the only bed in the only small room off the bottom floor. That bottom floor room had a thick door with a hotel lock, the only way in or out that we knew of. I couldn't get comfortable, couldn't fall asleep in that attic. Something didn't feel right. We didn't want to use the hotel lock on the front door because some friends might come back in the middle of the night, but we did lock the light deadbolt. All night, I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, feeling uneasy. Around 4 a.m., I was still awake when I heard footsteps climbing the final staircase, the only exit leading directly to the attic door. The door whispered open, a disturbingly quiet, crescendoing, high-pitched squeal. If I hadn't been awake, I doubt I would have heard it. It was dark, really dark, and I could barely make out the door slowly peeling open, like someone was trying to sneak in. I stayed laying on my side, eyes locked on the doorway, as it continued to open, inch by inch. I called out, thinking it was my friend, messing with me. No response. But the door stopped, for a second. I called out again, and again, nothing. Then, the door swung wide open, slamming against the wall. In the faint light from the hallway, I saw the shadow outline of a person, distorted by darkness, barely illuminated, from the window behind, which looked out onto the Paris streets. The figure began approaching me, slowly. It was so dark. I couldn't make out who, or what, was silently moving towards me. But I wasn't about to find out. I went full fight or flight, sprang up out of bed, grabbing a heavy lamp to use as a weapon. My eyes, better adjusted to the dark than my intruders, allowed me to keep my distance. I swung the lamp, occasionally moving in a skewed circle around the figure, in the narrow, claustrophobic attic, as it kept approaching. After what felt like minutes, but was probably only seconds, I found a clear path to the door and the staircase beyond. I threw the lamp at the intruder, hearing it shatter, and I flew down all 3 flights of stairs with so much energy. I was lucky not to fall and hurt myself. I shook awake my friend, who had made it back with me that night, telling him crazy shit was going down upstairs. I looked back, the apartment door wide open. I told him I was leaving, right now, and calling the cops, and that he should join me. Without a second thought, he agreed. Both of us, in pajamas, didn't even grab our phones. We were out of there, quick. As we were fleeing, we ran into 2 of our other friends, exiting the strange concrete elevators. They were so drunk, slurring their words, saying we were freaking out, and should go back to the apartment with them. They didn't want to call the cops, too focused on finishing the drugs they bought, not wanting to take them on the plane to our next destination. My soberish friend and I said we weren't going back, and left the building. A few minutes later, our drunk friends texted us, saying the place was all clear, calling us assholes for leaving the door open, and trashing the place. We did leave the door open, but we didn't trash the place, though. I did break a lamp. I spent the rest of the night, alone, at a 24/7 McDonald's, when my downstairs friend decided to go back, to get some rest before the flight. I didn't go back to the Airbnb until after sunrise. I grabbed my stuff, as quickly as I could, and got the hell out of there. To this day, nobody believes me, but I am 100% confident that somebody broke into our Airbnb that night. I never called the police, but I told the Airbnb owner the story. He thought I was just trying to avoid paying for the lamp. I left a 1-star review, simply stating, "Decent location, decent amenities, but I'm pretty sure someone broke in during the middle of the night and tried to kill me in the attic. None of my friends, nor the owner, believed me. Got charged extra for breaking a lamp in self-defense. This is not a joke. 1 out of 5 stars. I won't be going back." My parents and I were on vacation, and we were searching for a place to stay. Yes, I know, it was dumb of us not to make a reservation beforehand. As soon as we got off the bus, it's normal for people renting rooms there to approach you and ask if you'd like to rent a room. Soon enough, we were approached by this bald guy. That's the only thing I remember about him, the fact that he was bald. And shady. I didn't have a good feeling about him, even though I was only a kid. So he comes towards us and starts talking to my already exhausted dad, who probably wasn't thinking straight at the time, and tells him he has a nice apartment nearby. We agree to go. My dad is carrying our stuff, walking parallel with the guy, and my mom and I are walking behind them. We enter this neighborhood, and we pass a cafe. The waiter, a young guy, I'd presume 16 or 17, comes near my mom and I, and quietly tells us not to go with the bald guy, because he's up to no good. At this point, I was scared shitless, and my mom was worried, but we decided to check the place out anyway. We arrived at the apartment, and there were a lot of stairs. When we finally went into the room, it was all stuffy, and clustered, and dark, bunker style. I remember the furniture being colorful, but unsettling. He asked us what we thought, and my mom and I started protesting about it, saying we'd like to check out another place. He started getting weirdly desperate, telling us we wouldn't find a place cheaper, that he had other rooms, we should think about it, etc. His demeanor instantly changed, from calm to frustrated and almost angry. My dad finally told him we wouldn't stay there, and we booked it out quickly. When we passed the cafe again, the waiter said that the guy had criminal ties. We got another apartment, thankfully, which was pretty nice for a 10-day vacation, but God, the claustrophobia and anxiety that overcame me when we stepped into that room is still real, years later. I can't help but wonder if something happened there. I stood at a lovely Airbnb in Iowa for my little brother's graduation. He didn't know I was going to make it, so we threw a surprise party at the Airbnb. While we were setting up, my other brother and I went down to the basement to get an extra table. The second we got down there, we looked at each other and said, "Yup, it's scary here." We searched for the table, but the longer I spent in the basement, the greater the feeling of dread grew in me. We found the extra table and headed back upstairs, joking about how creepy a seemingly normal basement was. My whole family got together, and the party started. While we were celebrating, my girlfriend decided she'd run the washer, which was downstairs. She was going to go down alone, when she came back and asked me to go with her, since it was creepy. Again, I went down, and rushed to leave. The basement was now officially scary to me. The party continued, and we had a wonderful time. As the night started to settle, people got in their Ubers back to their hotels, and now it was just me and my girlfriend, unwinding after an afternoon of eating and drinking. We were relaxing when the laundry buzzer went off. I looked at her, and she said she didn't pick up the load from earlier. I thought it was strange that it hadn't beeped hours ago. We headed down to the basement. Again, she stopped at the stairs to the basement, and asked me to go first. As I was going down, the buzzer on the washer went off again, scaring us. We both jumped. I hurried down, grabbed the laundry, and we headed upstairs to let it air dry. As we finished, I could tell she was still nervous. We decided to go through the house and lock all the windows and doors. This is standard when we visit an Airbnb. We never missed this step. My girlfriend stayed beside me the whole time. We finally had one last door, the door to the back garden, right outside the kitchen, and at the top of the basement. I went to lock the door, ignoring the sense of dread I felt with my back turned to the basement. I should mention this was an oldish house, so the stairs were steep, and the bedroom where we slept was probably originally an attic. To turn on the lights upstairs, you had to flip a switch at the bottom of the stairs. As we made our way through the dimly lit house to the light switch, I think our sense of tiredness overcame the dread we had. I flipped on the switch and headed for the stairs. Just as I did, I heard a loud banging sound, like the sound of pots or something metallic clanging. My girlfriend's face was full of fear, and I'm sure mine was too. I began to go for the kitchen, where there was a knife. But then I heard the whacking again, at the top of the stairs. I turned to look, against the now illuminated attic, and saw a ceiling fan turn on to its max setting, and its mounting pole making the sound. I ran upstairs and turned off the fan, my girlfriend close behind me. We got ready for bed. I headed downstairs to turn off the light switch, and went upstairs. I looked outside the window of the attic to check on my car out front. Everything was good. We began to fall asleep. It was a restless night, hot and stuffy. I had dreams of seeing a shadowy figure out on the lawn. I woke up the next morning, tired. I made my way down to the kitchen to brew some coffee. As I was turning around, I looked at the staircase to the basement. Something was wrong, and I don't know why, but I was drawn to the basement again. I looked down the stairs, and walked down. I looked around, and saw nothing. I headed upstairs. We had breakfast, packed our bags, and got ready to go. As we were doing one last sweep, I checked the kitchen one more time to make sure everything was in good shape. Just as I was about to say, "All good, let's go," that damned laundry machine buzzed. Both me and my girlfriend were just like, "Nope," and proceeded to get the hell out. As we were leaving in a rush, I grabbed the bags and told my girlfriend to start the car. Just as I was leaving, the fan upstairs turned on again, and began making the whacking noise. I've never bolted so fast out of a house. When I got to the car, my girlfriend saw the look of panic on my face. "What happened?" The fan turned on again. I got her out of the driver's seat, and we sped off to collect our thoughts at a local diner. I texted the Airbnb host that the washer kept on making noises, and that I couldn't figure out how to turn off the ceiling fan upstairs. They messaged back, "Thank you for staying with us." A few years ago, some friends and I rented an Airbnb flat in London for a convention. We'd been corresponding with the owner, who had told us she'd meet us in front of the building to give us the keys and show us around. We messaged her when we got to London, and got a message back confirming the building address and flat number, and telling us the keys were in a lockbox on the front of the building. Weird, but fine. When we got to the building, there was no lockbox, so we messaged her again. Got a message back saying something like, "Oops, wrong flat, on my way." Which was weird, considering she'd confirmed the address in the same message. We waited 30 minutes, and then messaged her again, asking how much longer she'd be. It was around 10 p.m., and raining, and we were all tired. She messaged back about 10 minutes later that she was sending someone else, and to wait inside the building. Which we couldn't, because the door was only accessible by key or buzzer. At around 11 p.m., a car pulled up with a guy in it, who yelled out the window, "Keys?" One of my friends went over, and the guy just handed him a set of keys, with a tag on it that said the flat number we'd been told. He didn't ask our names, or for ID, or even identify himself, just handed over the keys and drove off. It was at this point that my other friend suggested we should just bite the bullet, and go see if we could get a hotel room, because this was kinda sketchy. But as we were all so tired, We decided to just see if we could get into the flat, and if it was the one in the pictures, we'd stay at least that night. It was super nice, actually. So we stayed. We messaged the owner a few times during our stay, but didn't get a response until the night we were due to leave, when we just got told to leave the keys on the kitchen table, and pulled the door shut behind us. No reply to any of our questions about anything else. Weird experience.